Let me share with you 3 of my best all-time driver videos. You know, driving doesn't have to be that complicated, especially when you get some of the secrets that I'm going to share with you here. Let's go and get started. All right, that's about as good as I'm going to hit one. In this video, we're going to talk about how to get tons of power, tons of speed. And the number one mistake that I see players making over and over again, and I bet that you've fallen into this trap yourself, that's shortening your swing, making your swing go all arms, not really using the body. Man, that just kills your swing speed. And it's actually really easy. Once I teach you how to engage your entire body from your feet, your knees, your hips, all the way up to your shoulders and then your arms, it's going to make it very simple to get more swing speed. So first, let's take a look at, we just saw a good swing. Now let me go ahead and do a bad swing, or one of them where I let my arms take over. I don't rotate my body and I lose tons of distance. So you see I got some really good distance in that first shot. Now, let me do the opposite of that, where I just pick the club up all hands and arms. And really where this stems from is being worried to turn away from the golf ball. So if I'm facing this golf ball, obviously I'm trying to hit this ball solid, and I'm really focused on making contact, good contact. So naturally my brain is saying, well, don't turn away from that ball. I want to keep my knees, my hips, my shoulders, everything facing this golf ball, which is going to increase the likelihood of me hitting it nice and solid. So what happens is when I turn all this off and I don't want to rotate, now the only thing left is my hands and arms. And now I start to pick this club up with my hands and arms. You can see my body hasn't really turned very much. I have to fold up my arms. Maybe your left arm is bending a little bit in the backswing. That's a key indicator that you're really not rotating the body as well as you could be. Maybe you feel like your hands are tight and your swing is quick. That's another key indicator that you may not be doing this as good as you could in the golf swing. But when I turn off my body, now I'm having to go all hands and arms. Yes, I can hit the ball pretty straight. Yes, that ball is in the fairway, but I probably lost a good 70 or 100 yards just trying to swing all arms. Today, we're going to talk about how to unlock the full body, to unlock your full power and speed so that you can effortlessly hit it 20 or 30 yards farther. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's take a look at this swing where I lost tons of distance. What you're going to notice is from my lower body. Notice how my feet are very stationary. My left heel isn't lifting. My knees aren't moving a ton. My hips aren't turning very much. And finally, my shoulders aren't rotating back nearly as much as I'd like. Well, what happens there is now, like I talked about, my hands and arms have to completely take over in the golf swing. That forces me to lose a lot of distance. Let me walk you through a step-by-step progression, going from the ground up to allow you to maximize every bit of power that you have without feeling like you're swinging very hard. If you can use your entire body, it feels very smooth and very effortless as you increase your swing speed. So grab a golf club. Even if you're sitting right from your living room, grab a club right now, grab a broomstick, grab whatever you can. If you don't have anything to grab, just make slow motion practice swings just using your hands and arms. It's completely fine. So let's start from the feet up. Now, most people are not very flexible, and one thing that you can do to test your flexibility is go ahead and stand up, keep your belt buckle facing forward, put your arms across your shoulders, and see how much you can rotate without letting your belt buckle move. You'll notice it's not going to be a lot. Now, if you're Adam Scott or you're some PGA Tour player with crazy range of motion, maybe you can rotate quite a bit without moving your lower body at all, but you'll probably find that you feel pretty limited there. Especially if you get a little bit older, you get a little bit, put a few pounds on, makes it even more difficult to rotate. That's why this is so key, is what I'm going to teach you today. So do that test again, put your arms across your shoulders, don't let your belt buckle move at all. So I don't want you to cheat and do this and let my hips move, keeping our hips still. Try to rotate your shoulders. You should be able to see about a 45-degree shoulder turn. That's about what I've gotten here. So if I put this club across my shoulders, have the tip of it on my shoulder tips here, my fingers on my shoulders, don't move my hips, I'm going to rotate my shoulders as much as I can. That's a pretty good amount there. Now, I don't have crazy amount of flexibility. I'm betting that you don't either. You're probably going to find that you did about the same as I did in the test, or maybe even a little bit worse. If you did worse, this is really, really key to do this. Now, if I now use my lower body, let me do this same drill, and I'm going to rotate my shoulders as much as I can here. I'm going to go ahead and not move my hips, rotate my shoulders. I'm only getting to there. Now if I go ahead and let my hips rotate, you'll see that I'm getting almost 90 degrees. So that extra 45 degrees came from my hips, my lower body. Now if I let my left heel lift very slightly off the ground, now you'll notice I can go more than 45 degrees. When I lift my heel very slightly, you may not even notice this happening in my swing, but as I barely lift that up, that loosens up my knee, that loosens up my hips, that allows them to turn more, and now I can get this big turn. So the key that I want to be able to get to is I want to use the whole body, and if I can focus in on one thing, the end result is I want my left shoulder to get behind that golf ball. So as I'm making this backswing, what I'm feeling like is my lower body is really loose, and that's allowing me to get this left shoulder behind that golf ball. If I can do that, then I know I've really loaded up and I'm going to be able to crush the ball. Let's go ahead and take a look at one more in full speed here and a slow motion one. And notice from the ground up, everything is very loose, and I'm going to get this left shoulder behind the ball. There we go, and hit that one fantastic too. So you'll notice there, I was able to drive it over 360 yards. Now I'm a little bit downwind, I'm not gonna lie. There's a little wind helping there. I was able to swing 120 miles an hour, and you probably noticed it didn't seem all that quick and rushed and jerky. It was a pretty nice smooth swing, went right down the middle of the fairway. How was I able to do that? Well, in reality, I'm probably a good 30 or 40 yards longer than I used to be playing on the mini tours and practicing 8 hours a day. And that all came from properly loading the body exactly like I'm gonna teach you here. So let's go right from the beginning. This is a progression. Again, you wanna follow along right with these. Don't skip and go straight to trying to hitting a golf ball. Do these practice swings so you can build a little bit of muscle memory. And I know muscle memory isn't real, but that's kind of what it's doing, is changing your neurological system to build the feeling of this. So let's start out by putting a club right across our shoulders. And again, the end goal here and what we're trying to achieve is we're trying to get this left shoulder behind that golf ball. Now, if you imagine my left shoulder, my scapula, the back of my left shoulder, I want to imagine that my scapula or the back of my left shoulder is looking at the golf ball when I finish my backswing. Now, if you're very inflexible, that seems impossible, but I guarantee you, you follow this progression, you're going to be able to do that. We're going to test it right now. Put this club across your shoulders, and the first thing that I want you to do is go ahead and rotate as much as you can in the backswing to get this club, the tip of this club pointing far behind that golf ball as you can, and then we're going to come all the way through to where now my right shoulder is going to go as far down the fairway as you can. Go ahead and just do a couple of them to get loosened up. Now the first piece we're going to focus on to increase that is we're going to lift this left heel just very slightly. And if you're looking from this angle, as I turn, that's about as far as I can go. But if I let my left heel loosen a little bit and I let it lift up off the ground slightly, now I can go another 15 or 20 degrees, maybe even a little bit more than that. So here I'm locked with the left heel down. As I loosen up that left heel, now I can go even a little bit more. Now my left shoulder is really getting far back there. Do 10 reps, club across the shoulder, loosen the left heel, try to go farther back each time, and then come on through to a good full finish, getting your right foot or right shoulder as far down the fairway as you can. Now, when you're doing the right shoulder down, you have to really key in on this right foot. If I keep my right foot down, no matter how far I try to rotate on through, I can't rotate very far. But as I let that heel come up, I let my foot swivel around, now I can get much farther down there. I'm not too worried about how far you can turn back and how far you can turn through. I just want you to maximize kind of your full range of motion, your full potential, so that you can get as much as you can personally. If you're super, super tight, you're not gonna get quite as much. If you're very, very flexible, you're gonna get a little bit more. It really doesn't matter. No matter what you do, if you turn more, you're gonna hit the ball a little bit farther than you do currently. So don't get too locked up in how much you're doing, just try to get as full as you can. So we've done those 10 reps. Now I want you to focus in on the hips. Imagine this belt buckle has a laser shooting out of it. And as I make my backswing, I wanna get my belt buckle facing behind this golf ball as far as I can. That again allows my hips to rotate, that allows my shoulders to go even farther. If my hips don't turn very much, the arms take over, your swing speed goes down the drain. So here's no hip turn, club across the shoulders, that's as far as I can go. I let these hips rotate, now all of a sudden I look like a PGA Tour player. I'm not very flexible, but that's because I've allowed my feet and my hips to move. Anybody, regardless of any range of motion, any flexibility, you can take your hips and turn those a bunch if you loosen up your left leg, if you let that heel and that knee relax. So anybody can do this, just like if you were turning to face somebody and talk to them, you don't have to be flexible at all to do that motion. That's the same thing we're doing here in the golf swing. Another 10 reps, club across your shoulder to get used to that feeling. And then make sure every single time you rotate all the way around as far as you can go too. That's very key. So your feet move in the golf swing. This is probably one of the biggest misconceptions I've seen. People have been told that they need to keep their toes forward. You need to keep your feet locked on the ground and stable. That is the biggest load of BS I've ever heard. The feet move in the golf swing. I promise you, look at PGA Tour players. You're gonna see guys like Justin Thomas whose feet come completely off the ground and his foot is almost 50, 60 degrees open when he comes in the follow through. You're gonna see most PGA Tour players, feet move around, come off the ground, rotate a little bit. The feet have to move. That doesn't make you any less consistent. It actually makes you more consistent, because as my feet move, now I can rotate very easily and I can smooth out my swing and I can be more coordinated. If I try to keep these feet like concrete blocks in the ground, now all of a sudden my hands and arms take over and I'm kind of lashing at the golf ball. I hit that one in the woods left, but there's just no way to be consistent. We have to rotate the body to allow this to happen. So 10 reps focusing on the hips, and then finally you're gonna get to your final 10 reps focusing on the back of that left shoulder. So again, if you're looking at the back of my left shoulder here, what would be my scapula, I want to face that to the golf ball, or do my best attempt to face that to the golf ball. So 10 more reps here, back. Okay, now my scapula can see that golf ball. My chin is going to be over my left shoulder. You're going to be noticing that your left eye will be able to see the golf ball pretty easily, but your head it's okay to get your head to rotate a little bit going back, completely fine. Again, the golf ball is still going to be there when we rotate in the downswing. I promise you it'll be completely fine when you make your swing. So 10 swings, back of my left shoulder toward the ball, and then again, finish up the good full follow through on every single one of those. Now we're gonna go ahead and repeat that same three-step process. Heels, ankles, let those move, then my hips, then my shoulders. 10 reps each. The only difference here is I'm gonna be swinging a club. So 10 swings focusing on the left heel, big a turn as I can going back, biggest turn as I can coming through, fluid swings, back and through, trying to create some speed when you're doing this. I'm gonna go pretty fast when I'm going through this. Then 10 more swings with your belt buckle, just like we did before with the club across your shoulders. Get some speed. There we go, really trying to be aggressive while this is happening. Full turn back, full turn through. And then finally, left shoulder behind that golf ball, 10 swings, really load up, and then all the way through to the good full finish. So in total, you'll have 30 practice swings, club across your shoulders, 30 more practice swings without a golf ball swinging the club. Now you're starting to get comfortable with this, and when you put the golf ball back down, you're gonna get better results a lot sooner. All right, now we're ready to put it to the test. Let's go ahead and hit a golf ball, and when you go to the range, I wanna do 20 swings, and then, 30 swings focused on each of these pieces. So my first 10 shots, I'm focused on the left heel just like we did in these practice swings. So here, let that left heel loosen up, let my hips and my knee turn. That's gonna allow me to be a bit more fluid. Let's go ahead and try one out here. All right, we see there, my heel lifted a little bit, hit that one nice and solid. Your next 10 balls, you're gonna go ahead and focus in on the hips turning. Let me grab a couple more and hit some for you. And on these, again, same thing. Imagine my hips are turning as much as possible. That's gonna get me to the end result, which is this left shoulder back, which is what I'm really going for. So here, belt buckle moving as much as possible. My feet are gonna be moving a little bit on the ground. Let's go ahead and give it a rip. Another one right down the middle of the fairway, hit that one well. And finally, let's get that left shoulder behind the golf ball. Again, it doesn't matter how inflexible you are. You're just trying to do the best you can personally. That's gonna add 10, 20, 30 yards to your drives by getting the most that you can. Another big key here, once I load up, I also have to finish my swing. Really come on through to a good full finish. If I don't finish my swing, no matter how much I load up, I'm not gonna get much swing speed. Now we all want to crush those drives dead straight, long down the middle of the fairway. But there's a couple things that make that nearly impossible. If I'm teeing the ball up, where about half the ball is above my crown, just like you see here, it may make it nearly impossible if I swing correctly to not hit thin on the bottom of the club face. You're going to lose a lot of distance when you do that. Same thing with my shoulder position. If I get it too far forward, now I'm going to have to lose lag, I'm going to cast, I'm going to flip, and worst of all, your drives are going to be inconsistent and they're not going to be very far down the fairway. I'm going to talk about the solutions to those and a couple other key tricks in this video. Let's go and get started. All right, so let's jump right in. I'm gonna hit a couple shots and talk about some of these key mistakes that we all can make. And Q's gonna read some of our flight scope numbers here on the radar. So it's gonna be tracking these shots. Number one is gonna be the tee height. Time and time again, I see players that are setting up the ball with about half the ball above the crown of the club. So meaning that half the ball is sticking up above this top edge of the driver. Now when that's happening, that's okay if I'm swinging level or down into the golf ball. So if I'm kind of hitting down into my drives, I'm gonna lose some distance. I'm gonna hit it inconsistent, but that tee height is about okay if I'm hitting down into it. So if I hit a drive, you know, I'm hitting down, big slice into the trees, lost tons of speed and tons of distance. I was actually able to hit on the top of the club face where I want to, but we're gonna talk about why this is all just a giant mess and go through that here in a second. So first, let's look at that first swing, doing it incorrectly. What was my club head speed? What was my distance? You know, what happened on that shot?
Club head speed was about 100, distance was 227. You hit down on it 5.9 degrees.
Okay, so there, driving it incorrectly, a couple things are going on. Number one, I had that ball tee height too low. So only about half the ball was sticking up over my driver head. Now, if you want to hit it far, if you want to really get that high launch, you want to be swinging up into the ball. So there, I was kind of chopping down into the ball. That's one of the most common things I see. I'd say probably 80% or more of players that I see are hitting down into their drives, which is not a good thing. I want to be hitting up into the drives. Problem lies in this tee height. If I tee it up where just half the ball is over the crown, if my club reaches its low point behind the golf ball and starts moving up into the golf ball, which is exactly what we want to be doing, look how now I'd be hitting off the bottom of the driver. When I hit thin off the bottom of the driver, I lose all kinds of distance, just like we saw there. I have to make contact on the top half of the club face. That's what's going to make it launch higher, spin less, and carry a mile. So instead of teeing that ball half a ball above my driver face, I want to get a good 3/4 of the ball above the driver face. So now we can see, if I make the right kind of swing, how I can hit up into this golf ball and I still have room to hit it on the top half of the club face. That makes things a lot easier. Let's go ahead and try one there, and we're going to see that I pick up a whole lot more distance when I also stay behind it and tee it up a little bit higher. We're going to get to the second part here in just 1 second. All right, so much better on that one, much longer, right down the middle of the fairway. Not quite perfect yet. Hit that one a little bit off the heel, but let's go ahead and go to the second key here after we talk about the numbers on that one. So what was the stats on that one, Q?
So club head speed was 118, total distance 308, and angle of attack, you were hitting up on it about 1.3.
So hit a little bit up on that one. Another big key there, I mentioned the second thing, is I don't want to be sliding in front of this. That first shot where I just kind of sliced it off in the woods, it wasn't any good. I was letting my shoulder get up in front of my ankle. Now, if you want to hit your drives far, what you want to do is something called the compression line. And what I mean by this, that's a term we use in the Top Speed Golf system. What I mean by this is, at impact, if I was to draw a line from my left ankle, the center of my left ankle, to the center of my left shoulder socket, that would be tilted away from the target. This would be toward the target. I'd be chopping down into the ball, weak, short drives. This would be away from the target, hitting up into the ball, long, powerful drives. Now, it's not just that I'm away that's helping me hit up on it. That's good. It's also the powerful position I'm in with my body. When I get tilted away from the target, now look how it makes a lot of sense where I can have this lag and then release that out in front of the golf ball. If I was up here and I had a lot of lag, I would swing right over top of the golf ball. Wouldn't make sense. So from here, I can get lag, release that in the golf ball. I'm gonna hit it a lot farther. So here, notice on this swing, my compression line. I'm gonna feel like as I as I set up to this golf ball, my head is behind the golf ball, my shoulder is behind my lead ankle, and I feel like I'm really gonna get behind it and let everything release out through the golf ball. So I'm getting my speed in front of the golf ball rather than chopping down into the golf ball. Let's go ahead and try that out. There we go, that one was perfect there. Couldn't have hit that one much better. Gonna have a positive angle attack, I bet. And I stayed behind that one really nicely. What were the numbers on that, Q?
So 118 club head speed, total distance was 323, and and your angle of attack was up 3 degrees.
So up 3 degrees, that's about perfect there. So one other last thing here, me and Q were talking a minute ago, and he was mentioning something that I thought was really interesting to me. Why don't you walk him through what you believe makes the most sense to get the third piece here, which would be ball position. So where could I go wrong? Again, we don't want to hit down into this. We saw how bad that can be. What do I need to do with my ball position to get it right?
Right, so we've often heard that we want to play the ball off the inside of our lead foot. And that can be a fine position for a lot of people, but what happens is we all have different stance widths. So if you play that ball off the inside of your lead foot, do a narrow stance for me. And basically what we want to happen is we want this club to bottom out and then work up into the golf ball. And typically where that club is bottoming out is about right in your armpit there. So if you look here, if he has a narrow stance and he plays that ball off the inside of his lead foot, on that armpit, that's basically going to be, it might even be a little bit ahead of the golf ball, depending on the camera angle.
I'm going to be tufted up on that from this narrow stance here.
Right.
I'd be kind of falling off.
Right, so we definitely don't want to be doing that. And if you had a very wide stance, now if you step that back foot back, there you go. You play off the inside of your foot. Now that armpit might be too far behind the ball, and the club might be coming in, bottoming out, and then working up into the ball and hitting nice or bad thin shots that you don't want to be hitting. Those are going to be the really thin ones that really balloon up into the air.
It's kind of the other extreme. I get way back here, and now I'm going to almost hit the ground or thin it, you know?
Right. So what we really want to do is play that ball in relationship to our upper body. And I've found that off the outside of your lead shoulder is actually a great place to play the ball, because that allows the club to bottom out about where the armpit is and then work up a few inches into the golf ball so you can get that nice upward angle of attack. So you get that high launch, low spin. Those are the drives that we all want. So Clay, how about you hit one here where you display that really good ball position and see what kind of numbers we get.
That makes a ton of sense to me too, because I could, as long as I keep this in relationship to my shoulder, I could have my feet narrow and I'd still be in a good spot to where I could hit up on it. I could have my feet really wide and maybe the ball would look like it's a little farther back in my stance, but it's still in that good position. So I like that a lot. So I'm going to play it off the outside of my shoulder. I've got the correct tee height and I have what's called the compression line. I'm staying behind the golf ball. When I put all three of those together, I'm just in a position here to where I can really get a lot of lag. I can swing through this golf ball and get tons of speed, and I'm going to be pretty consistent while I'm doing that. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. There we go. That might have been the best one of the several that I've hit. What were the stats on that one there, Q?
Still in the air. All right, so it just came down, 117 club head speed, total distance 331. You're hitting up on it almost 6 degrees.
Yeah, so you can see there, as I started to go up and up more, the ball flew higher, got lower spin, and it went a heck of a lot longer. So follow those 3 keys, you're gonna hit the best drives of your life. Now, I bet you've been told that when you want to hit this golf ball, you want your shoulders to be square. I'm going to talk about, if you do this the wrong way, how that could be throwing the brakes on your swing speed, how it could cause a chicken wing, and for you to get all arms when you're trying to hit the driver. Let's go and get started. All right, so let's jump right in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple swings. I'm going to talk about the idea of keeping my chest a little bit more closed, and then Q's going to read some of the flight scope numbers, see what the swing speed is doing, and I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of opening versus closing with your shoulders and which is right for you. All right, so let me go ahead and jump in and hit one here. And the first one I'm going to do, I'm going to have this sensation of keeping my shoulders square. And we've probably all heard this before. We feel like as we're coming down to contact, if I'm looking from down the line, my shoulders could kind of be pointing toward the target. The idea is that if my shoulders are pointing straight, I'm going to hit it straight. If my shoulders are pointing to the right, I'm going to hit a little bit of a draw. If my shoulders are open, I'm going to hit a little bit of a fade. We're going to kind of bust that myth a little bit here. But let me go ahead and start to swing some and see what this means. So what I usually see players doing is not opening enough with their body. So as you come into contact, I see a lot of this where the shoulders are closed, trying to hit that draw, but look how my hips haven't opened very much. My chest, or my shirt buttons, my rib cage, however you want to think about that, is also pointing toward the ball. And when I do that, when I don't open with my body, what ends up happening is I have to push across the body with my hands and club and arms. So I'm trying to generate swing speed by pushing the club across my body. I get that chicken wing and I tend to get a loss of club head speed. So let me go ahead and hit one like that. I'm going to swing and try to keep my body kind of square to the ball. Again, that idea of hitting the draw, and let's see what happens. Yeah, so I kind of pulled it. I really felt like the face was closing down very quick. It was kind of hard to time up the exact sequencing of that. I feel like the next one I may have hit straight. then maybe one to the right, then the left, kind of all over the place. But Q, what was my club head speed, and what was my total distance, my carry distance, those kind of numbers?
So club head speed was 94 miles per hour. Total distance was 243, but it only carried 187, not really your best strike there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a low hooking rolling shot, so it really just kind of rolled most of the distance, but only carried 190. Again, let me go ahead and try to do that again. I'm kind of locking the body, keeping everything square to the ball, and then I'm kind of pushing across with my hands. Very, very common. I see this all the time. Yeah, and again there, I feel like I tried to not hook it to the left, and again, my club face is going from open to close. It's just so much arms, I really can't square it up very consistently. What was the numbers on that one?
So 95.9 miles per hour in the club head speed. Total distance was pretty much the same, 241.6.
Okay. So we see how inconsistencies can happen when that's going on. We see how that doesn't necessarily give me a draw every single time. We see how it slows down the club head speed a lot. So what's the truth behind this? What should we be doing? Well, in reality, what we want to be doing is opening up the body a little bit as we're coming through contact. So as I come through contact, my hips should be opening up. I'm using the momentum of my body to get everything rotating on through, and then my hands and arms are releasing out in front. If I look at my rib cage, so if I get rid of my hands and arms, if I look at my rib cage as I'm coming through contact, it's actually pointing out in front like this. So my ribs are opening up. My sternum is opening up. That's what the best players in the world are doing. Their rib cage on average is about 20 degrees open to the golf ball. Now what gives the illusion that my face or my shoulders are square is because I'm in this position and then my left shoulder protracts or drags across my body to make everything look pretty square. That looks really square when you're going from down the line, but if I take my left arm, you'll see my rib cage is actually open. So your body, your big muscles of your body, my legs, my hips, my entire upper body all the way up to my shoulders is square, or is actually open. My left arm is just protracted, kind of cinched across my left pec there. If you want to feel this yourself, put your arm straight out and then drag your arm to where it's kind of across your chest like this. You'll feel it pinching against your left bicep. That's kind of where you're at impact. As I bend forward and open up, that's basically the impact position. So that's the reason it looks more square when you're looking from the down the line view. So let's go ahead and do one more here where I go ahead and open up like I should be, and let's see what those numbers change. Again, I'm gonna feel like I can really swing hard and release on out in front when I'm doing this. There we go, and actually mishit that one a little bit off the toe, but we're gonna see the swing speed's way up, the distance is way up. It's gonna be a totally different shot. What are the numbers on that one, Q?
Club head speed 120, total distance about 307.
Okay, so picked up 20-something miles an hour swing speed, driving it 50, 60 yards farther, whatever. We all get that it's going a lot farther when I do it that way. We all get that that looks like a much better swing, and we understand that the hands and arms aren't kind of flipping when I'm doing that. So the big question, how the heck do I do that? What do I need to feel? Well, a big piece of that is what we talked about with the left bicep there and the left pec, your left arm. So if I grab my chest and I have my fingertips kind of under my armpit here, I want to feel like I have my left arm across my body until I'm kind of smushing my fingertips. So if I'm looking at the bicep, the inside of my left arm, and my pec, or this muscle here that's your chest, I want to feel like that's really tight. Like if I tried to pull that out of there, I couldn't get my hand out. It's cinched in there really nice like that. That's the feeling that you want to have when you're coming through contact with your left arm. So as my body rotates open, I'm really tight and connected there. You hear pros all the time talking about being connected. That's the feeling that they're having. This is nice and connected. This shoulder's sturdy, it's tight. This is gonna control my face angle, control my hand pat. That's why I was getting those shots that are going all over the place. My face angle was all, left up to its own, momentum and that kind of thing when I didn't have this connected. Now that I have this connected in, I can really be a lot more consistent. Also, when I'm doing this, the second swing key is, as I rotate on through, feel like everything is facing the target. In your mind, if you're one of these players that doesn't get open enough, you want to feel like at contact, you're like this. So your hips, your shoulder, your chest, everything's facing the target. And in reality, it won't be. In reality, it's going to look much more like what you would see the pros doing, where I'm really opening my body, getting my hips to clear out of the way. So if you keep that left armpit connected, if you feel like at contact, you're facing the target, It's gonna lead to a whole lot more consistent shots and a lot more swing speed. And even better, it's gonna get rid of that chicken wing with your arm pushing across your body. Let's go ahead and try it out. There we go, that was a lot better. Right down the left center. Numbers are gonna be pretty good on that one. So what did it say on that one, Q?
Club had 120, total distance went all the way up to 343.
Okay, 343. I'm not gonna do much better than that. Now, Q, this brings me another question that I have all the time. You know, when I'm talking about this with players, I get them to open up more. I get rid of that chicken wing, but sometimes the ball starts to go out to the right. What would you recommend if players start to slice when they're doing this?
Right, so a lot of times when we get to where we're opening up the body, what happens is when we're opening up the chest, the arms and the hands and everything are gonna come out with us because we're used to coming in. If you come into where everything's nice and square, club face, chest, everything is really square to the ball, we're used to bringing that club kind of out in front of the body there. And if we keep that same relationship that we're used to, that we're comfortable with, when we're opening up, now we're just gonna come over the top. Yeah, just like that, we're gonna be coming over the top. So what we wanna do is we wanna have that same feeling like what Clay was talking about. You have the arm really cinched to the chest. You really wanna feel like it's really pushing up against your chest here. And that's gonna help you keep the club behind you more so you can swing more on plane, because if you don't, that's where those big slices or pulls are gonna end up coming from. So how about you hit one where you're really trying to put all those things together, where the club's really coming from the inside nicely.
Okay, yeah, so where he's showing there is, if you keep doing this motion, you're almost gonna feel like with this new swing that you're getting way back in here. The club's coming away from the inside, but in reality, when you open up more, that's gonna be nice and square. So let me go ahead and hit one. And now we'll have kind of all the pieces. You'll be opening up, you're getting rid of the chicken wing, you're adding the club head speed, but now with that arm cinched and the club feeling like it's well in here, now when you open up, it's gonna be square. You're not gonna get those slices. So let's go ahead and try one out here again. All right, hit that one well. So the numbers are gonna be really good on that one. Basically square face, square path. I opened up my body, but then I also got that club coming from the inside. That way when I opened up, everything is nice and straight, not going to the left. So what were the numbers on that last one there, Q?
119.6 club head speed. Total distance was 327.
Okay, awesome. So hit that one really good, nice and square on it. Now let's recap on what we need to do here. Number one, we have to get the body opening up. If you're one of the players that stands up, everything's too square, maybe the chicken wing, feel like at contact, your body is facing. Notice how my body's rotated around here, my hips, my shoulders. You're gonna feel like this at contact. It's never gonna happen. That's not anywhere near where you're really gonna be, but that's the feeling that you're gonna have. Number two, I want you to feel like, so you can come from the inside, this left bicep is pinched against your left pec. If you tucked your hand into there, you almost couldn't yank your hand out. That's how tight it's gonna be as you're coming into contact. And then number three, the idea of feeling like you're swinging way to the right is actually the right idea for you, because as you start to open up more, that's gonna be square, nice and straight through the ball, and you're gonna have so much more club head speed, the distance is gonna go way up. Now in this video, we talked about how to get speed through the ball, how to keep everything rotating through, but it also matters how much you load up, how much I turn back. I have to get my hips, my shoulders, my club really loaded up so that I can get this power through there. If you do both of those, that's when you see the really big hitters. The guys that are driving at 30 and 40 yards longer in your local foursome, and you just can't figure out how they're doing it, they're making a big turn going back and through. Well, I have some great tricks that are gonna allow you to do this, even if you're not flexible at all. I'm gonna play one of my best power turn, previews of one of my best power turn videos. All you need to do, click the card that pops up on your screen. If you don't see the card, go ahead and click the link down below in the description. You're gonna get instant access. You're gonna pair what we learned here, making that big turn, you're gonna start bombing the ball. The correct technique, we can all hit it with really good distance without a lot of muscular effort. And it all starts out, the very first thing you have to do is get a good powerful turn to load up the body. And it's not only in golf, but in all sports we have to rotate the body. At least 90 degrees with the shoulders as you swing to the top. Preferably, we can go even a little bit past 90 to really get loaded up. That's gonna allow us to have a lot of power. So we don't just have to look at golf for this. Let's actually look at other sports. They're rotating their body, then they're coming forward. So we have to get that load. We have to get this big shoulder turn to be able to create power in the golf swing. So in this series of videos, I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that. That's one of the first keys to getting power, and we're all gonna get at least a 90-degree turn, if not more than that. I think you'll be surprised at what you can do. So let's go ahead and get started with the next series of videos, and I'm gonna show you how to get this big, powerful turn. All right, guys, so before we go, let's take a look at this in action with some of the top pros. Now here we're looking at Adam Scott, and you're gonna see as he rotates to the top, good full shoulder turn. This is pretty typical of what I see with the top pros, a little past 90. Those guys are working on their flexibility, so sometimes they can get to 100 or even 110 degrees.